Mr. John Ruszczyk and Ms. Marion Heffernan. This is the second time our family has had to experience the distress, trial, and injustice for the utterly gratuitous murder of Justine. Our original family victim impact statements remain the same. Our sorrow is forever. Our lives will always endure an emptiness and suffer the incomprehension of a loss of an innocent woman whom we will never be able to hug again. Before this killer is resentenced, we should refresh all our minds of the events of that night and the subsequent evidence exposed during the trial. In a simple sentence, Justine walked up to the side of a police squad car and was shot and killed. In plain language, police officer Mohammed Noor, while in the squad car, pulled out his weapon and, shooting across his partner, shot and killed Justine without justification or pausing to think of his responsibilities and duties as a police officer. This is what happened. That should not have happened. During the trial, the jury heard testimony that described the event and subsequent behavior of the police officers involved. The jury, after hearing from the witnesses, the prosecution, the defense, and the court, returned a verdict of guilty of third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. This resentencing hearing may be the result of a poorly written law, but it cannot change the jury's belief that the then officer, Mohammed Noor, committed murder. Their verdict made clear that they believed the killing of Justine was an extremely serious offense and that Mohammed Noor should feel the weight of the community's distress and its desire for justice and police accountability. The verdict required the court to impose an appropriate sentence. It sent Mohammed Noor to prison for 12.5 years. That sentence was not the harshest it could have been, but the court reasoned that Officer Mohammed Noor's act required a significant term of imprisonment. The facts of that night and those exposed during the trial are unaltered. Mohammed Noor remains guilty of killing Justine. Mohammed Noor was sent to prison for his criminal act. In our opinion, he should stay longer in prison than the 12.5 years. Since that will not happen, we believe that he should serve the sentence that comes as close as possible to the one first imposed upon him. The maximum term of 57 months is the proper outcome of this resentencing hearing. We should expect complete accountability from our public institutions and their staff. When a crime against the public, such as killing Justine, which is so clearly outside of any normal and expected behavior, is committed, we, the jury, and the community ask that justice be meted out honestly and justly concerning the gross insult to decent, civilized standards. The hoped-for goals are punishment for the guilty and also, after reflection by police officers on this terrible occurrence, prevention of killings of innocent citizens in the future, and resultant changes in their institutional culture and behavior. We have always sought accountability and justice for the killing of Justine. The penalty of 57 months sends a message to Mohammed Noor and other police officers to whom we entrust our safety and welfare that we require their respect for their badges, an awareness of their obligation to serve and protect all, and an acceptance of the rule of law. The disrespect shown to this principle of the sanctity of life, of Justine's life, already underscored by this criminal act, will be exacerbated by the imposition of a trivial sentence. We will be outraged if the court is unwilling to accept the will of the people and demand that justice be heard, be seen, and be done.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll be reading the statement of Katerina Ruszczyk, Justine's sister-in-law. Thank you to the court and Judge Quaintance for the opportunity to speak today. I feel tired, I feel betrayed, and I feel angry at how this process has ended. Having sat in the courtroom for weeks, listening to defense twist the facts to suit a particular narrative, being so careful not to say anything to the media so as not to jeopardize the outcome of the legal process we so fully put our trust and hope in, being quiet and patient and calm in the storm of grief and sadness that made me just want to scream at the injustice of what we had experienced, and all of that playing out in the media day after day when we just wanted to be private and quiet and process what was happening. So having the Supreme Court overturn the decisions of the trial judge and the appeals court is so very disappointing and totally confounding, to be honest. As an attorney myself, I know that there are facts and then there is truth. But in my opinion, the outcome of this trial has been decided on the facts as they were presented, but not the truth. We saw from that the first day we found out that this man had shot and killed my sister-in-law. The blue wall of silence that formed around him was and still is very real. We experienced that firsthand. Because for so long the facts we were given just did not add up. We just couldn't make sense of what happened. It just didn't seem possible that our Juzzy had been killed. But I know there are facts, then there is truth. The truth is my sister-in-law was a helpful, caring citizen. The truth is she called for the police for help for that night. The truth is Noor saw a person and intended to shoot that person. He fired his gun in the face of his partner inside a squad car, and that he killed our Juzzy. The sad truth is that in your country, there is not a category of murder that captures this exact scenario, even when someone intends to kill a person and does in this scenario. But in my mind and in the minds of the jury that sat through the hearing of all of the evidence, what happened to Justine is murder. But we accept and will learn to live with the Supreme Court's decision. The killer, Noor, might be getting out sooner than we had hoped, but he will always be a murderer in my mind. He took our precious Justine away from us. He took a loving sister away from my husband, a devoted aunt away from my children, and the opportunity for me to grow and be a better sister-in-law to her. He extinguished the brightest star, the most sparkly, beautiful, creative, and caring person when he killed our Juzzy. I'm sure she is transcending above all of this on a higher plane, vibing at the brightest frequency. He gave her friends and family a life sentence of endless pain with a life lived without her sparkly soul. But he will always have the knowledge for the rest of his life that what he did was take the life of an innocent person, and I hope he learns from that. I hope he doesn't perpetuate the misguided myth that he was actually in the right and that he got caught up in the moment. That is just a collection of erroneous facts rubbed together by his team of lawyers. There is no truth to that interpretation of the facts. No, this is a legal loophole situation, not one of moral triumph. There are no lessons to learn if he continues to have his ego stroked by the culture of police in this state that continue to live under the protection of the blue wall of silence and a culture of killing first and refusing to ask questions later. The truth is there is a problem with fear in the Minneapolis police, a culture of macho protectionism of their own rather than protecting the people they are supposed to serve. There will be no systemic changes if people like Noor continue to allow to be police, handed a gun, and are out in the community taught by their superiors how to be trigger happy and get away with it. The truth is there is no justice for Justine, not unless the police culture changes and the community is safe, not only from those elements of society that seek to harm them, but from the institution that is supposed to protect them. But that is not today. The second statement I'll read, Your Honor, is from Jason Ruschek, and that's Justine's brother. My sister's death, caused through the actions of Mohammed Noor, has changed my life, the lives of my family, and the lives of those who loved or knew her forever. Memories of that day, the lead up to the trial, and then of the trial itself are often the last things I think of before I sleep and the first things I think of when I awake. Every day I say to myself, every day I need to learn to live with it. Only with the love for my sister and knowledge of her kindness and compassion in my heart can I do this. I will always believe that the decision of the jury and Judge Quaintance at the end of this trial was the correct one. And I will hold that close to me as well, as that was justice for my sister. I have heard that a wishing tree has grown out of the ground near the memorial bench Don erected for her near the creek. What a wonderful thing. I wish I had my sister back. I wish for my sister to be back on this earth, for her bare feet to feel the soil and her smile to breathe the clean, fresh air. I wish for my sister and me to sit and adore blue on blue days we would cherish so much, those crystal clear days where the blue ocean would compete against the blue sky for the Serenity Award. I wish for my sister's smile and her warm hugs to be a presence in my life till we grow old and leave this earth on natural terms. I wish for her laughter to be present at family dinners. I wish Don a good life, free of pain from this trauma, and a future full of love and peace. I wish for my children to have their aunt's love and tenderness in their lives. I wish for my father and Mem had their daughter back. If I return to Minneapolis, I will visit the tree. My sister is the best person I've ever known, and I miss her terribly. Every day, she lives on in my heart and visits me with smiles in my dreams. That is my statement.
In this world, we see so much division, so much hatred, murder, racism, sexism, black and white thinking, which only separates us as humans. In Justine's life, she was a unifier, not a separator. She lived with the highest level of morality of anyone I had the privilege of knowing. She stood for justice. She lived to transform people. She lived a life of love. She modeled a life of joy for all, and she stood for forgiveness. I watched as she generously forgave others for their injustices and poor behavior. She taught me and others that all people have value. She taught that all people deserve mercy and that all people can transform. And I have no doubt she would have forgiven you, Muhammad, for your inability to manage your own emotions that night, which resulted in you pulling that trigger. Justine was and is still my greatest teacher. Given her example, I want you to know that I forgive you, Muhammad. All I ask is that you use this experience to do good for other people. Be the example of how to transform beyond adversity. Be an example of honesty and contrition. This is what Justine would want. The greatest amends we can ever make is to change our behavior for the better. We can never undo the past. But our work is to heal by demonstrating we can truly change and do good for others. This is Justine's example in life. And now, even in death, she shows us how to live.